Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful for You channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. This week's spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful indicate that tragedy has befallen Luna Nozawa, whose faint hope of survival in prison was extinguished following a severe beating. She was discovered crumpled on the cold cement floor of her cell, clutching her abdomen and screaming for assistance that arrived too late. The echoes of her cries reverberated through the corridor as guards rushed in, only to find blood seeping through her orange uniform and the light fading from her eyes. For months, the narrative of The Bold and the Beautiful revolved around the repercussions of Luna's machinations, treacheries, and her psychological disintegration following her descent from esteemed fashion in turn to prisoner. However, no one, not even the stoic Spencers or the previously empathetic Finnegans, could have anticipated the catastrophic event that transpired within those confines. Luna was incessantly mocked by fellow inmates, branded as the designer's disgrace and the Spencer trap, with rumors circulating throughout the prison block regarding her notorious past, her exploitation of Will Spencer, and the ensuing paternity turmoil. What none of them knew, what only Luna confided to the fractured mirror in her cell each night, was that she was pregnant, harboring a delicate secret that had become her sole lifeline, the glimmer of innocence within her serving as a reminder that not everything in her world had succumbed to darkness. She frequently envisioned a day when she might embrace her baby, narrate tales of redemption and resilience, and perhaps introduce them to the father whose name she struggled to utter, Will Spencer. However, destiny, as frequently occurs in Los Angeles, had alternative intentions. The evening preceding the calamity, Luna experienced restlessness, tormented by remorse and an escalating feeling of foreboding. She composed a letter to Bill Spencer, the influential patriarch whose enterprise her actions had nearly dismantled, imploring him to understand that she had not intended for any of this to occur, that she never sought to compromise Will's innocence or devastate the Spencer family. In her quivering script, blurred by tears, she had inscribed, "Please inform my child's father that I am remorseful. Inform him of my affection, regardless of its impropriety." That correspondence never arrived at its intended recipient. In the morning, turmoil ensued in the women's yard when a dispute between Luna and a formidable inmate, Cassie the Cobra Jones, developed into a violent confrontation. Cassie had received a promise of assistance from an unidentified benefactor. Rumors indicated that an external party had proposed compensation to inflict suffering on Luna. Some enthusiasts conjectured that Steffy Forrester's name might be implicated in the repercussions, particularly considering her history of intense protective instincts and her conviction that Luna's machinations nearly devastated Finn and their family. However, as the altercation escalated, Luna's cries attracted the guards' notice, albeit belatedly. She was struck to the ground, the blows to her abdomen delivered with alarming accuracy. Blood disseminated like ink across her garments, and she became motionless, her hands quivering as she said, "My baby, please don't take my baby," before succumbing to unconsciousness. Upon the arrival of the news in Los Angeles, the repercussions were instantaneous and catastrophic. Bill Spencer, renowned for his mercilessness, was in his office at Spencer Publications when he received a call from the jail infirmary. For an instant, his assured facade disintegrated. The phone fell from his grasp as the phrases "miscarriage," "internal bleeding," "condition critical" reverberated in his thoughts. He pressed his quivering fingers to his lips, the recollection of Luna's defiance and vulnerability overwhelming him, the girl he had once loathed, the one who had exploited his son, yet also the young woman who, despite all, had gazed at him with tear-filled eyes and murmured, "I didn't mean to hurt anyone." Bill attempted to regain his composure, but as the truth sank in, tears cascaded down his face for the first time in years. His son Will, formerly brimming with potential and defiance, had been devastated by Luna's treachery and subsequently further fractured by her demise. Now, even he remained in mute astonishment as Bill murmured, "My God, what have we done?" Steffy Forrester's response was multifaceted, encompassing shame, anxiety, and incredulity. She vigorously endeavored to safeguard her family from Luna's turmoil, even supporting the young woman's incarceration following the violent confrontation that nearly resulted in Sheila Carter's demise. Upon learning that Luna had lost her baby, Steffy remained immobilized in her office at Forrester Creations, fixated on the designs before her that now appeared devoid of significance. A baby, was she expecting? She murmured when Finn entered the room, his visage ashen and his attitude inscrutable. She was pregnant, Steffy, my niece or nephew, potentially even my daughter's cousin, Finn stated softly, the anguish in his voice evident. And now that child has departed. She has also departed. Finn's Hippocratic principles clashed with his fury. He had pledged to cure, not to condemn, yet the image of Luna bleeding on a frigid prison floor caused his hands to tremble. She required assistance, not retribution, he murmured, averting his gaze as Steffi extended her hand towards him. However, Finn's thoughts were preoccupied, tormented by the possibilities of what might have transpired, Luna's anguish, the humanity she had forsaken, and the ease with which vengeance supplanted compassion. Lee Finnegan, in the meantime, confronted her own reckoning. For months, she had repudiated her niece, attributing Luna's decline to Poppy and demanding the eradication of dishonor from her family's reputation. Upon receiving notification from the jail hospital regarding Luna's serious condition and her transfer for emergency care, she experienced an internal rupture. She hurried to the hospital, where Luna lay pallid and inert, encircled by tubes and machinery enclosing her delicate form. Lee positioned herself at the threshold, her palm quivering, and murmured, "You remain my kin, Luna. You remain family." However, it was too late. One of Lee's co-workers, the doctor, discreetly informed her that Luna had experienced excessive blood loss and that the infant had not survived. The trauma was excessively severe, the physician stated gently. Lee's mouth clenched, her heart shattering in quiet. She neared the bed and swept a lock of hair off Luna's face, murmuring, "You were meant to have a future. I ought to have advocated for you." For the first time, Lee Finnegan, perpetually austere and collected, cried unabashedly, her tears cascading into Luna's inert palm. Upon Bill's arrival to the hospital later that day, accompanied by Justin Barber, the entire ambience transformed. Nurses were immobilized, and murmurs proliferated rapidly, "That's Bill Spencer, the father of the boy she ensnared." However, Bill was not present as the merciless tycoon. He was present as a man overwhelmed with remorse. He ambled down the corridor, his reflection visible in the glass panels, his thoughts traversing memories of Luna, the day she entered his office imploring for compassion, the manner in which he had callously rejected her as a deceitful manipulator, and her final words to him, "You perceive me as malevolent, but one day you will realize I was merely adrift." Upon entering Luna's hospital room, the sight of her inert form shattered him. He sank onto the chair adjacent to the bed, his hands obscuring his face as tears cascaded down. "You were undeserving of this," he said. "Not in this manner." His voice faltered as he extended his hand toward hers. "I believed I was safeguarding my son. I believed I was acting correctly. All I did was destroy you." Will stood in the doorway, his complexion ashen, shame and confusion enveloping him. "Father, is she truly gone?" Bill acquiesced, his eyes brimming with melancholy. "She miscarried, Will. Our fury extinguished it as effectively as the beast that harmed her." Simultaneously, Hope Logan, the quintessential empath of the Forrester Logan sphere, received the information from Brooke, who had obtained it from Ridge. Hope remained mute, her thoughts engulfed by recollections of her personal losses and suffering. She softly whispered, "No one deserves that, not even Luna." Brooke placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder, murmuring, "Tragedy serves to remind us of our shared humanity." Meanwhile, Sheila Carter, the unpredictable element, astonished everyone by arriving at the hospital unannounced. Her relationship with Luna was intricate. Initially adversaries, they became unforeseen allies amid Luna's turmoil, forging a peculiar connection rooted in their mutual fragility. Sheila positioned herself at the base of Luna's bed, her voice quivering. "You were merely a girl seeking love in a world that devours individuals," she remarked gently. Finn gazed with astonishment. "Mother, what brings you here?" Sheila gazed at her kid with eyes brimming with tears. Regardless of her actions, she did not merit such a demise. "None of us do." This was an unusual instance of unfiltered candor from the notorious Sheila Carter, a moment that rendered Finn momentarily dumbfounded. As Luna's heartbeat ceased, the monitor's beeping diminished to quiet, and time appeared to halt. The room resonated with the subdued sobbing of individuals who had previously despised her, who had condemned her, and who recognized too late that she had been pleading for assistance all along. Bill gradually stood and approached the window, gazing at the Los Angeles skyline that now appeared vacant. "A child who was never born," he murmured. "Due to our excessive pride and obsession with vengeance." The remorse would torment him for months, visions of Luna extending her hand towards him, her voice reverberating, "You could have saved me, Bill." He commenced frequent visits to her grave, leaving white roses, her favored flower, as she once confided to Will, because they symbolize forgiveness. During each visit, he conversed with her spirit, pleading for absolution he feared would remain elusive. Subsequently, the Forrester and Spencer families confronted a moral reckoning. Steffy grappled with the notion that her efforts to maintain Luna's incarceration had inadvertently exacerbated her anguish. Finn temporarily estranged himself from his wife, engulfed by sorrow and remorse, unable to harmonize his affection for Steffy with his empathy for Luna. Lee immersed herself in her job, directing her anguish towards aiding others, quietly dedicating each surgery to the niche she could not safeguard. Hope created a charitable initiative for abused and pregnant inmates, resolute in her commitment to prevent the recurrence of Luna's narrative. Sheila, too, felt unusually depressed and remarked to Deacon one evening, "Perhaps this is the universe indicating that redemption invariably entails a cost." Bill, however, was the most shattered individual. In his mansion, enveloped by luxury that had lost its significance, he frequently sat in solitude, gazing at a small photograph, one snapped by the media of Luna beaming on her inaugural day at Forrester Creations. In that snapshot, she appeared luminous, brimming with potential, oblivious to the calamity that awaited her future. "You could have possessed it all," he whispered one evening, holding the photograph tightly against his chest. "I could have rescued you." Upon discovering his father in tears, Will was at a loss for words. The boy who previously loathed Luna now had an unsettling void, the recognition that beneath her deceit lay a girl shattered by isolation and despair. "She was unworthy of such a demise, father," he stated softly. Bill gazed upward, his eyes inflamed and his voice raspy. "Nobody does, son. However, each of us contributed to the endeavor. Each and every one of us." The bold and the beautiful, in its characteristic manner, transformed Luna's devastating miscarriage into a profound emotional occurrence that reverberated through every family, feud, and clandestine partnership in Los Angeles. Her demise, along with that of her unborn offspring, serves as a poignant reminder of the extent to which animosity and retribution can prevail when empathy is disregarded. Months later, the reverberations of Luna's last moments persisted, Steffy's troubled dreams, Finn's revitalized commitment to his patients, Lee's subdued grief, Sheila's unforeseen compassion, Hope's resolve to reform the system, and Bill's tears, the tears of a man who comprehended too late that power and pride are inconsequential when a life and an opportunity for redemption are irrevocably forfeited. In the hidden recesses of the world, Luna's spirit murmured through the wind, a poignant reminder that even the most fractured souls merit love, that forgiveness is the most arduous yet essential act, and that often, amidst tragedy, redemption commences not with grand gestures but with a solitary tear of authentic remorse. In the weeks subsequent to Luna Nozawa's sad demise and miscarriage, Los Angeles appeared subdued, yet it was a quietness reminiscent of the aftermath of an explosion, a quietude that resonated beneath the city lights and echoed through the canyons like a spectral lament. Bill Spencer frequently found himself solitary in his Bel Air mansion, the whiskey on his desk remaining untouched, the lights subdued, while the portrait of his boys loomed above him like an unyielding jury he could never confront. Sleep was infrequent, and when it occurred, it delivered nightmares that left him breathless, Luna's visage, bruised and terrified, extending toward him from behind prison bars, murmuring his name in a tone that conveyed both remorse and absolution intertwined. 3 weeks had elapsed since the call that transformed everything, yet Bill's mind remained restless. There were discrepancies, minor, persistent elements that contradicted the official report. The guards asserted that Luna's assailant, Cassie Jones, acted independently during a verbal dispute, however Bill's instincts, those same acute instincts that had established empires and vanquished adversaries, insisted otherwise. In a place like that, no one perishes in solitude, he murmured to himself, tapping the prison incident file he had discreetly acquired from a contact at the Department of Corrections. Upon observing the sealed disciplinary records, the absent surveillance footage from the cell block, and the abrupt departure of the warden within 2 days following Luna's demise, Bill discerned the reality: someone sought to quiet her. Initially, he disclosed the inquiry he was discreetly doing to no one, not even Will. Justin Barber, his long-standing advisor and legal counsel, was the initial individual he contacted. "Investigate thoroughly," Bill commanded. "Each guard, each inmate, each transfer, each penny that transacted in or out of that prison." Justin, perpetually composed and exact, merely nodded. "Do you believe it was a targeted attack?" Bill's gaze deepened. "I suspect someone aimed to ensure Luna remained silent indefinitely." The subject of her potential discourse, however, persisted as an enigmatic conundrum. Did she possess knowledge of a concealed aspect of the Forrester-Finnegan feud? Was it related to her relationship with Will, or a secret she was on the verge of revealing in that letter that never arrived? Bill's intuition suggested that this was not coincidental. The girl responsible for the destruction of his family perished while attempting to safeguard her sole innocent possession, her unborn child, indicating that a more significant force was at work. In a secluded area of the Forrester estate, situated on the cliffside, Steffy Forrester was experiencing emotional turmoil in solitude. To the external observer, she appeared as the poised, authoritative CEO who continued to conduct meetings, endorse designs, and maintain her composure, yet, in private, she awoke in the nocturnal hours, soaked in perspiration, haunted by Luna's voice echoing in her dreams. "You desired my departure," it stated. "And now I am." Each morning, she perched on the edge of her bed, gazing toward the ocean, unable to dispel the sensation that she had transgressed some irrevocable moral boundary. Finn promptly observed her detachment. "You continue to contemplate Luna," he remarked gently one evening as they occupied the subdued illumination of their living room, accompanied by the sound of waves smashing below. Steffi turned, tears welling despite her attempts to suppress them. "She was with child, Finn. I despised her, unaware that she was nurturing a life within her." "What type of individual does that render me?" Finn grasped her hand. "It renders you human. However, it also signifies that we must endure the repercussions." His statement resonated profoundly between them. "Bill is not relinquishing it," he remarked softly. "He has been inquiring concerning the correctional facility, regarding potential individuals who may have desired Luna's demise." Steffi's eyes widened. "What is the significance of that?" "It signifies," Finn remarked, averting his gaze, "that this is not concluded." Concurrently, Lee Finnegan had immersed herself in her medical duties with a fervor that approached obsession. She conducted consecutive procedures with minimal sustenance or rest, while her colleagues speculated that she was seeking redemption for something. Their conjecture was accurate. Each instant she sterilized a knife or sutured a wound, she envisioned Luna's visage, contused, fractured, imploring. The image plagued her. She was so resolute in safeguarding the family's reputation that she forsook her own niece. The niece and the infant she bore have now departed. Late one night, Lee accessed Luna's medical records and discovered unexpected notes regarding a prenatal ailment, namely a unique genetic marker necessitating particular care. The type of information that would have been accessible solely through the examination of Luna's confidential records. "Who authorized this?" Lee murmured. The signature at the bottom sent a chill through her veins. It was not from someone affiliated with the jail hospital. The communication originated from a physician associated with Forrester, whom she recognized as having previously treated Steffi following her shooting incident years prior. Suddenly, Lee experienced a sensation of nausea. Was Luna's medical history disclosed? Was she under surveillance before the assault? For the first time, Lee contemplated whether an individual at Forrester Creations had engaged in activities far more sinister than mere workplace competition. Hope Logan, conversely, transformed Luna's demise into a crusade. The remorse she experienced for failing to recognize Luna's suffering before, for regarding her merely as another scandal in the perpetual cycle of Forrester drama, was consuming her. She established a non-profit in Luna's honor, Project Renewal, aimed at advocating for pregnant inmates and survivors of abuse. During the press conference, her voice quivered as she declared, "No woman should perish unnoticed, unacknowledged, or unloved." Cameras illuminated the scene, and Brooke observed with pride,